Hi, and welcome back to Lisa's Stamp Studio. My name is Lisa Curcio. Today's fun fold card is called a corner tuck fold. Here's the card we're going to be creating together today. It literally gets tucked underneath that corner. Isn't it beautiful? I'm going to give you some tips about using the Stampin' Blends as well as assembling this card, and we're going to be creating the inside as well. If this is your first time visiting my YouTube channel, you'll be able to find additional videos on fun folds here. While you're here, I'd love to have you subscribe. Make sure you click the small bell icon that's next to the subscribe button. That will give you notifications of when I'm live here on YouTube as well as when I upload a new video. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's card. I wanted to give you a good close-up of that card. Isn't it beautiful? And let me show you how the tuck works. So it's going to literally come up from underneath there, and there is the inside of our card. To close it, you're literally just going to tuck this corner right up underneath it. I'm going to be using my Simply Scored scoring tool, and I've cut a piece of cardstock here. This measures 4 1/4 by 8. If you're here visiting from YouTube, you're going to find a link down in the video description below that's going to give you all the cutting dimensions. The Simply Scored does come with a stylus tool. I absolutely love it because it's dual-ended. The thicker end is great for using designer series paper that's a lot thinner, and the smaller tip is wonderful for cardstock. I'm going to line this up here in the corner, and at the 5 1/2 inch mark here, I am going to score. Believe it or not, that's all the scoring we're going to need to do. I'm going to fold this on that crease. I'm bringing in my bone folder for that nice crisp edge. I've cut a piece of designer series paper. This comes from the Magnolia Lane Designer Series Paper Series. Isn't this gorgeous? Double-sided, so you've got lots of options. This side being more generic is going to work wonderfully for this card. I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet. That's going to keep my work surface sticky free because adhesive, hot glue, and liquid glue will not stick to it. And then I'm going to adhere this to the left side on that front panel. We're now going to work on the image panel for this card. I have a piece of thick Whisper White cardstock here. That is my cardstock of preference when I'm using alcohol-based markers, which is what I'm going to be using to color in the image on today's card. Since I'm using alcohol markers, I'm going to be using the Memento ink pad since it's water-based and there won't be any bleeding. This gorgeous image comes from the stamp set called A Little Lace. Lots of fun images in here, including some wonderful greetings. You'll find this stamp set in the current Stampin' Up! Annual catalog. Now, if you don't already have a demonstrator and you're interested in receiving a complimentary copy, head over to lisasstampstudio.com and click on Contact Me. You're going to see how large the stamp is. So the best way to ink this up is face up. I'll hold this from the sides, and that will ensure that I'm not going to miss an area. I'm going to manipulate this so that it's in the upper left-hand corner, and then I'll press. It's a very detailed image, so take your time and press out the whole design. Coming back to that same ink pad, I've pulled out the greeting from that stamp set that says, "You'll always be my friend." And I'll ink that up as well. And that's going to get stamped here on the right-hand side of that image. Now we can do our coloring. For the large flower, I'm going to be using the Calypso Coral Combo Stampin' Blends markers. There is a light and a dark shade. They are sold independently or as a combo. I like to start with the lightest shade first, and since alcohol markers do provide some bleeding, I also like to protect my work surface. So I'm bringing in a small piece of grid paper to do so. And it's a detailed image, so I'm going to choose to use the thinner end of the marker, which is indicated by the thin line and of course the brush with the thicker line. I'll start by coloring in one of the petals. I'm going to demonstrate this for you because I want to be able to teach you how to do a little bit of blending. I have an entire video series on using the Stampin' Blends that I'll link down below. Once you have the light colored in, I'm going to come in with the darker shade of the Calypso Coral. The lines inside the image are really great cheat lines. The artist puts those in there to indicate some depth, and they're also wonderful for giving you an indication on where you can put the darker shade. So I'm just going to trace over some of those, primarily near the center of my flower. Now the beauty of the blending comes in going back over it with the lightest shade. With the lightest tone, I'm going to make small circular motions to blend those two shades together, so this will look more highlighted and shaded than it will with streaked lines. It's going to take a few seconds for the alcohol to dissipate from the marker to get its true tone, but you can see how beautiful and effortless this is to create. I also used the Petal Pink Stampin' Blends markers to color in some of the flowers and the light Granny Apple Green to do the leaves. Now I have an image that's already finished here, and here it is. I'm going to adhere this image to a piece of Calypso Coral cardstock. It's just a 1/4 inch larger, and you can see that bleeding on the back side that I talked about. That's one reason I recommend that you protect your work surface. That's the sign of a really good paper and a really good marker. And then I'm going to border this to leave a small margin of color all the way around. From that exact same stamp set, I went ahead and used the small flower and the accompanying words that say "you know too much," and I created the inside panel for our card. That corner tuck is going to require something to hold it together. So I cut a square measuring 2 1/4 by 2 1/4, and I cut it on the diagonal. Now I used my paper trimmer, or of course you can use your scissors if you're more comfortable with that, and that gave us 2 equal parts. So I'll save this for my second card that I'll be creating, and this is the one I'm going to use for my corner. Coming back with my scratch paper, I'm going to add a little bit of a stamped image here to create a little bit of depth to that. And I'm going to be using the coordinating Petal Pink ink pad. This is the beauty of Stampin' Up! Products, is the color coordination. Again, from that same stamp set, we have this beautiful bordered image. And I'm going to go ahead and ink this up, and I'm going to stamp that here on the bottom. And I'm going to repeat this pattern up the cardstock. That's it for the pieces. We are ready to assemble. So back here at the card base, we are going to start by placing our image on the front of the card, and that's going to go here. I'm going to see that I'm using just about 1/3 of the card front to adhere to this flat panel. So I'm going to flip this over, and again, using my silicone craft sheet, I'm going to place adhesive strips here and here, and you're going to be able to do 3 in a row as long as they are close together. I'm going to open up the card base and lay it flat here on top of the silicone craft sheet so that you can see it a little bit better, and I'm going to center this on this panel. You want to be sure that there's no adhesive hanging over this side, otherwise it's going to stick to the inside of your card. The insert for our card is here, and I'm going to ready it by putting adhesive on the back, and I'm going to work primarily in my 4 corners. This is going to require some positioning so that these 2 panels line up together. So I've got it in my hand with the sticky held onto my finger, and I'm going to line it up behind this panel that we just placed on the front. And once it looks good, I'm going to lift my hand and then make sure that this is straight and that it will be well hidden. And then once I'm secure with the placement, I'll go ahead and press that in place. Now we'll attach our corner. Here's the triangle piece that we made, and that's going to go here. You're going to want to use glue dots because you're going to need to make sure that they only encompass a small amount of this so that you don't impede the area here where the card's going to need to be tucked. I have my glue dots here. I'm going to press one right here on the corner. Any overage you can just roll to the back side. I'm going to place another one here near the top corner, and I'll place one more on the opposite end on the opposite corner. Once that's in place, you can go ahead and open up your card, and you're going to place your corner matching up with the card base itself. And then you'll press those glue dots in place. Our card now is going to get tucked up underneath there, which is going to create the closure. Last but not least, I decided that it needed a little bit of pizzazz, so I'm bringing in the Gold Faceted Gems. And you can see I've used quite a few of these. Love them. There are 2 sizes on here, and I've got both the large and the small. They already have glue dots on the back, and I'm going to use my paper piercing tool attachment on my Take Your Pick tool. I love this tool for the interchangeable tips and the ease in using these small accessories. I'm going to place the larger faceted gem in the center of the large flower, and then I've got my smaller flower here that I'll place inside the smaller flower on my card. Isn't that stunning? So pretty and so much fun. So our card reads, "You'll always be my friend," and then on the inside it says, "You know too much." Here's the card that we created together today, and here's the one I created before you joined me. If you have enjoyed today's fun fold, I'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.